Wake Up and Live with the Arts. You're with me, James McGilbray, and of course, you know her. She is Sue Johnson. And we're going to be, it's just going to be a wonderful show tonight. We have a number of musicians, some people whose names you're going to recognize, some blasts from the past, and some things that are happening now. The first guest is someone who practically needs no introduction, but I'll give the introduction anyway. Mr. David Krauss, good to have you on the show, David.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, David has a very extensive background, and I'll just start by holding up this album, and this ought to tell you a little bit. You remember this group? Tiny Alice. That's right.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another delightful evening of dining and dancing here at the beautiful.
This is one of the founding members of Tiny Alice, and he is currently in a band called the Blue Drivers, which does some wonderful blues music, and you'll hear some of that later on in the show. So let's get right down to it.
Okay.
David, we met, it was a bit serendipitous.
Absolutely.
I was actually out garage sale shopping.
Yes.
Stopped at your place to buy some things, and we got to talking.
Mm-hmm.
And once I learned you were a musician, I just said, well, I'm going to have to get back in touch with you. So now that we've had a chance to kind of get together here, when you walked in tonight,
mm-hmm.
you mentioned that you were in a recording session. Can
Yes.
you tell us a little bit about what's going on now?
Yeah, sure. What I'm doing right now is about 2 years ago, the engineer I'm working with heard my band Legacy Village and said he'd been following the band and is a friend of the band and has known me for a few years, and said, I'd like you to come into the studio and just put your songs down.
Okay.
Wow, that was another serendipitous thing.
Exactly. Well,
happened,
about a
yeah.
year later, I finally did it, and after 28 songs, I said, okay, I want to stop now and just kind of think, because I've got more songs to do, but like, we've got a pile of songs here.
Now, the original works or the
They're all
covers?
original,
Okay.
all original
Okay.
stuff, as original as any music can be.
Certainly.
And then it occurred to me, what would be the best thing to do with this? And out of the blue, I said, I would like to do an album to benefit the Food Bank of Cleveland.
Okay.
And as long as we're having big dreams, I would like to have many of my really wonderful, talented musician friends in the Cleveland area, a whole group of them, and have each group do a song, sometimes in the style they work in, sometimes not in the style they work in. Just give them the song and let them take it their way.
Mention who some of these musicians are.
Okay, well, it ranges, for example, Alex Bevan is in the studio tonight. We're finishing something up. It'll be the first tune on the CD. Next Tuesday, Carlos Jones will be back in the studio. Actually, the first time. We did the rhythm track Monday, but he'll be doing something. Sethro Quartet. I'm going to forget people. Mary Martin, Becky Boyd.
So just a whole lot of
a lot of people who play
Yeah.
out around the Cleveland area all the time, and sometimes other places. And actually, Austin Walking Cane will be on the CD too.
Oh, nice. I just heard him perform on Around Noon.
Oh yeah, about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
yeah.
3 weeks
Jim
ago.
Carrey,
I
around noon.
I heard that same show.
Yeah.
So he'll be doing putting slide guitar on one tune. So, I mean, the thing about Cleveland, and you know this because you do this show, there is so much wonderful talent here in town.
That's right.
And oftentimes it's like under the bushel basket.
Of course.
And so, sort of, a secondary gain of this CD will be to expose Cleveland to all these wonderful musicians who play in different styles, but they're all wonderful musicians. So we're going to do something for the food bank, something for Cleveland, and something for the musicians. And that's my hope.
Well, then that's your plan. Okay.
Well, as much as what could possibly go wrong.
Now, when do you hope to have that CD?
It will be released in the spring, around Easter time.
Now, will there be a special event where you dedicate it to the food bank, or they're
Yes,
having an event
yeah.
where they will debut it with you and your
Something
band?
like that. It will be on the food bank website when it's going to happen, so you can go to the food bank website probably in February or March. February, probably.
Okay.
Abidos Productions is the place that's putting it together. It'll be several places, so hopefully you'll be able to hear about it at that
Well,
time.
we might as well go ahead and start giving your contact information right now so that
Okay.
people can look it up on your website as well.
Okay.
So for people who are interested in booking you as a band, or one or several of the groups that you work with, and about the upcoming events that you're having, so are there telephone numbers, email addresses, and websites that we can direct our audience to?
Sure. There's bluedrivers.com is the website. You could also go to Abidos Productions, and you can leave email there. Now most of us have day jobs, so we try
Well,
to...
we
And in
in the
fact-
arts understand what that's all about.
Yeah.
In fact, what is your day job?
I work as a psychologist in nursing homes, and I
Okay.
do consulting in nursing homes, just work in geriatrics for the last 25 years or so.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. As a musician, certainly you had to arrive at the point where you became a musician, a psychologist. You taught high school
Yeah.
for a period of time at Cleveland Heights. Tell us a little bit about your background, that childhood, where you were walking around with music in your head and in your heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How
Yeah.
did you evolve into being a musician? What got you on this road?
I think when I was a young person, I heard probably somebody like Boots Randolph,
Okay.
or maybe some other musicians that were playing in that kind of style. And there was something about the saxophone and reeded instruments that just really spoke to me and sort of really hit me. And then I kept listening to music, and as I think I noted earlier in talking with you before we started, that when I was about 10 or 12, I got a tape recorder and I started to tape stuff off the radio that I really wanted to hear. There was something that really pulled me in, and there's sort of nothing I could do about it.
That's it. When it just speaks to your spirit, your soul, your heart, I mean, it just sucks you in, and that's all there is to
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as artists, we understand what that's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you went on to play the harmonica.
Right.
I think I saw another instrument that you played as well.
Well, I played a bunch of stuff. In Tiny Alice, I played the washboard.
Okay. And in fact, it used to be the Tiny Alice
Jug band.
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
it's-
did you have one of the jugs that you throw up over your
We had
shoulder
a
and you
jug.
took a swig every once
Right.
in a while?
And I washed up bass
Washed-
with one string, yeah. And then it became ultimately an electric band. But I played, in Tiny Alice, I played a recorder, a washboard, harmonica, guitar, and then did most of the writing, sort of a lot of the writing in Tiny Alice.
But now, and Tiny Alice had some major success, although they weren't together for a long time. You did, just the one album? or-
Well, we have one album, but we also have a compilation,
Okay.
which is available at myspace.com, Tiny Alice Band.
Let's hold that up and let people see it. The thing is that now the music that you do is, there's a lot of blues. It's wonderful stuff. I've
Thank
had
you.
a chance to go online and listen to quite a bit of it. And the harmonica is just smoking.
Thank you.
Your
Thank you.
vocalist. Who all are the members of the Blue Drivers?
Well, let me start off with Tom Arata, who's actually also a member of Tiny Alice, and
Okay.
Tom and I have been playing together for over 40 years.
Mhm.
In Tiny Alice, he played the bass and occasionally the guitar. In the Blue Drivers, we have...
I can't help but hold this picture up because it's so nostalgic. Lester, while he talks.
It is nostalgic, yeah.
Yeah.
In the Blue Drivers, the bass player is Dale Taylor, the drummer, and he was with SRO.
Okay.
The drummer is Rick Sesteric, who was with the Baskerville Hounds. So Tom Arata is the guitar player. I'm the harmonica player. Char Friars is a singer. She worked in Chicago for many years. This band has been in this configuration for probably 12 years or so,
Okay.
the Drivers. Yeah. And actually, we waited a long time, and I wanted to wait a long time to put out a CD. I was in no hurry to do that. I wanted the music to be, really musical.
Right.
And from my perspective, there's a lot of CDs out there, and I wanted this one to really have some some depth to it.
Some substance.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
To speak to
Yeah.
the group, the folks who want to,
Yeah.
tune in
Right.
to the music.
Well, one of the other things that you did was you were one of the co-founders of the Hessler Street Fair.
Yes, but not on purpose.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Way back in the 1960s, probably 67 or 68, I was living on Hessler along with, and actually John Bassett was living down there at the same time, and a lot of other folks. And the University Circle wanted to tear down a number of houses because they were probably going to put up a parking lot. And there were a number of people in the architecture department at that time, because Reserve had one, who said, we'll rehab the houses. We need to buy stuff. We need electrical stuff. We need plumbing stuff. So we basically had a bake sale. And we just sort of, and that kind of thing. And there was enough money raised that we could start saving these houses. And they were actually, as you go on to Hessler, they were the first two houses on the left-hand side of the street behind the apartment houses. And they were saved, and so therefore there was no sort of chink out of the community. The community stayed intact, and here we are today.
So in other words, they didn't pave Paradise and put up a parking lot.
Exactly. Right, especially because it's paved with cobblestones.
Yes, absolutely.
It should be a historic landmark
Now
street.
Now it is a
Yeah.
historic.
Yeah, and in
landmark.
fact, it was the first historic district named in the city of Cleveland.
Okay.
And of course, there's a plank road there that's still actively used.
Right.
One of the only ones in the United States that's still actively used for its original purpose.
Yeah.
Cars actually drive over it
Yeah.
and such.
Yeah, it's a wooden cobblestone street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. You, all this music and so forth, and you play so many instruments and are involved in genres and community service. And I know one of our guests, Tom O'Brien's ears, he's figuring out how to, get him involved, because we'll talk about Neighborhood Connections, one of our sponsors. But community service, all the stuff that you do, the music you play, the variety of things. Who, besides when you were listening to Boots Randolph as a kid, who kind of inspires you to to feel the way you feel, create the music you create, do your social conscious work, your community work? Are there certain individuals, including mom and grandma,
Well,
who?
certainly my mother was a social activist all her life. Musically, when I was a little kid, the only music that made sense to me was jazz.
Oh yeah, you grew up on that. Yes.
So I grew up on Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane and Sonny Stitt and.
See, I go back
That's good
to Ella
stuff there.
Fitzgerald and Count Basie and Duke
Ella.
Ellington.
I just heard Ella doing something with Louis Jordan the other day.
Wow.
I didn't know she recorded with Louis Jordan.
Okay, yeah.
It was a really nice tune. But every sort of after swing, although the interesting thing about music to me is that the older I get, the hipper the old guys get.
Okay.
I mean, Louis Armstrong is a million times hipper now than he was when I was 18.
Of course, yeah.
It's just amazing how hip he got.
Your wife is also a musician, isn't she?
She is an art therapist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's an art therapist, and she teaches at Ursuline College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a chance to meet her.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to collect some of her work at some point in time.
Well, James, pretty soon we're going to have to wrap this up because we want to leave room to insert some samplings of his music so that our viewing audience
Absolutely,
will
'cause
be
it's-
jumping and jiving.
it's good stuff, believe
Now,
me.
is this an album we should be talking about as we begin to bring this segment to a close shortly? Tell us a little bit about what your mileage may vary.
Right, it's the Blue Drivers, your mileage may vary. And contrary to popular opinion, we're not the chauffeurs for the Blue Man Group.
Well, you might be making a lot of money if you were.
Well, that's right. There's the old joke in the music business, how to end up with $1 million.
It's be a roadie for
No,
somebody
you
else.
start with 2.
Oh, you start.
This album has some original music on it, like Just Jukin' and Steel Mail Blues, and other tunes that range from Muddy Waters, Sonny Boy Williamson, who else? I'm blocking here.
Yeah.
Love
Louis
when you
Jordan,
draw a
thank you,
blank. Yeah.
Louis Jordan and Mose Allison.
Okay.
So that's
That's quite a heck of a combination. artists, and this is your group. I don't know whether you can get a shot of this, Lester. This is
That
your
is-
current
that-
group.
That's the current group. The group has
Okay,
been
to put
current-
this album
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Now, as we draw to a close, because like I said, we want to leave time to hear some of his original works.
My pleasure.
meeting
Nice having you
you,
on the show.
and I look forward to seeing you and hearing your music again.
Show up anytime.
Okay, thanks,
I'll be
darling.
glad to see you.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.